People whose marriages lasted less than a year, months, weeks, days, or even hours. When did you realize you'd made a mistake and why? Cliffs. My new wife changed the second I said I do. She instantly became controlling, manipulative, and would lie about anything to get her way and double down when caught. The marriage lasted about 10 months. Before we got married, she was considerate, kind, and sweet, apparently all for show. This is my dad in a nutshell. He is on divorce number 4 now. Every time I have seen he is the perfect boyfriend. Opens doors, buys nice things, keeps his appearance up, goes out to eat with them, never swears. Basically a great act he can keep up for a year or more. Second he gets married he completely stops buying anything that isn't fishing equipment. Grabs his old ratty clothing from college, he is 60 now, starts drinking and swearing like a sailor, and completely stops cooking and cleaning. His last 3 wives were all super confused with what happened, but the short answer is he is a child. When he is dating he is a salesman trying to close a deal. When he gets married, suddenly he has a new mother to take care of everything for him so he can f*** off. 2 months in he told me I was too fat and will no longer be having sex with me. I lost 75 pounds in 3 months by doing it the wrong way, and he told me he was already seeing someone else. He seemed surprised my parents would no longer pay his bills, and was kicked off their property 30 days later per laws of my state. Not me but my ex-girlfriend a few years ago. Before we met she was dating a guy for about 7 years or so. Due to family pressures, tradition, etc. she went and got married to the guy. They went home in separate cars because she said they both realized it was a mistake. Lived with her cousins for 6 months because she was scared to tell her parents. When my former buddy called me to tell me he got herpes from my wife. I had 2 good friends who were brothers. They were party animals, out drinking at bars all the time, sleeping with different women every weekend, recreational drugs. Their idols were the whole Jackass crew back in the day. They just loved that whole bachelor lifestyle. And to be honest, I was a bit jealous of the fun they were having. I was in a longer-term relationship for many years. Eventually the younger brother settled down and got engaged to a really nice girl. Something broke in the older brother's mind and he suddenly was in some sort of race to get married before his younger brother. He kept living the bachelor lifestyle, but then one day announced to us all he was engaged to be married, and with his fiancée they'd set a wedding date to be married 6 months before his younger brother. None of us ever met this girl before we found out he was engaged. When we did meet her, it was clear he'd not been open with her about his lifestyle. She was a very prim and proper lady, very shy, quiet. They worked together, so she only knew the professional side of him. Over the months leading to the wedding, his partying kept going. He was cheating on her with one-night stands, but she was oblivious. Our group of friends told him he needed to tell her what he was doing, but he refused. I was nominated to be the one to tell her before it was too late. I met her for coffee and told her how he was cheating on her and the drugs he was using. She was generally taken aback, but she told me to my face she was still going to marry him and that she could change him. I left with a clear conscience after that. Fast forward to their wedding day and it is an absolute mess. He is drunk before the reception even starts and passes out in a corner sometime after dinner. As I am leaving, I say goodbye to his bride, and I can see it in her eyes. The definition of regret. They ended up being together for a year. Her final straw was when she really wanted to go out for a special brunch for their 1-year anniversary. She made plans at a fancy place. He told her he was going out to party the night before but would be home in time to get some sleep before their anniversary started. He ended up going home with some chick he picked up at the bar, and when he finally made it home the next afternoon, his wife had packed her bags and left. I felt bad for her at first, but then I remembered how I laid everything on the table with her and she still did it. I've never seen or spoken to her again. My friend ended up repeating his pattern. He is on his 4th marriage now, but does seem to have finally settled down this time. When I found out on my son's 1st birthday that she cheated again. Not me but a friend. Their marriage didn't last through the reception. Groom got absolutely shit-faced drunk and slaps the bride's child from a previous relationship and then hits the bride in the face. She filed for an annulment the next morning. To be honest, I didn't really want to be married to her. However, she was determined to get married by age 24 regardless. And at the time I had significant difficulties saying no. I was working 60+ odd hours a week in a kitchen to help pay for everything, and I was struggling with my mental health at the time, and we grew further and further apart emotionally. I found out less than 5 months into the marriage that she had been unfaithful to me for at least a year, so 6/7 of a month before the wedding. Whilst she had been planning it, she had been sleeping with other people. Whilst she had been putting serious pressure on me to provide pound for her dream wedding, she had also had an abortion because she didn't know whether I would have been the father or not. When I found this all out, I basically had a breakdown and tried taking my own life. I also spent a few years after this blaming myself for the breakdown of my marriage and her behavior. I had some friends that got married and divorced within a year. It turns out she had major doubts but went through with it anyway. Then cried for the whole honeymoon and told him she had made a huge mistake. They posted all these normal pictures of them looking happy in Hawaii, but it came out later what a miserable nightmare the trip was. Wasn't my marriage, but I am involved in the story. Basically, my ex-girlfriend's boss left his wife on their honeymoon, because she and him were having an affair. They had the wedding and flew off to Bali, but he was sneaking off into the bathroom to send my then-girlfriend dick pics from his honeymoon. I saw one of the pictures and confronted her. She admitted to it and messaged him back to tell him that I had found out. My understanding is that he basically came out of the bathroom, told his wife, "I think this was a mistake. We shouldn't have gotten married," got on a plane and flew home. Left her there on her own, on her honeymoon, with no explanation. In the end, I had to be the one to go over to her place and tell her what had really happened because he wouldn't own up to it. So I think the marriage lasted all of about 3 days. Not my story, but a fraternity brother of my husband had a marriage that lasted maybe 100 days before they split. Apparently she didn't internalize that marrying a military person would mean moving around, and he just assumed she knew and was good with it. My sister's marriage lasted about 40 days. She found out he was a pedophile when my other sister came forward that he'd been raping her for the last 4 months. When he was arrested, police found a video of me getting dressed on his phone. I thank God every day that she came forward when she did, because he was grooming me to be his next victim. He was sentenced to 12 years in prison and has no contact orders with everyone in my immediate family. This event was the end of my childhood skeptical smiley face. When she cheated on me for the 3rd time in 10 months. Because for some reason the first 2 didn't convince me. I had a friend who married one of the most horrible people I've ever met. So charming at first, but within the first 3 months of them being together, we all started to notice a few things and we decided none of us liked him. One day we saw hand-shaped bruises on her arms, and literally the next day they were at the courthouse getting married. We had a small gathering shortly after, which he ended up turning into their wedding celebration, bachelor party, whatever he could to make it all about him. He got extremely drunk, and basically tried to kill her in front of all of us. She told us they didn't have their rings yet, but they would get them soon, and he walked over to her and started strangling her for embarrassing him. She ended up breaking down, and realizing that for the entire 4 months of their relationship, and 9 days of their marriage, he had progressively gotten more and more abusive, and she made a mistake. Very glad she left. Strangulation in an abusive relationship is the #1 indicator of murder, as in, the chances of him eventually killing her over 95%. On our honeymoon she didn't want to do anything but fight, so I left 2 days early to be with my dog lol. Then she stopped wearing her ring and refused to tell people she was married, referring to me as her boyfriend instead. The final straw was when my grandpa was dying and she said I wish he'd just hurry up and die already. I'm tired of this apartment being so depressing all the time. Made it 4 months in all before filing for divorce. 4 months in he dislocated my jaw, but really what I want to share is the signs were there and people should be aware of them. First it was just grabbing my arm kind of hard, then grabbing my arm hard enough to bruise it, then pushing, then slapping. It took years so escalate. I heard it gets worse. I didn't think too much of it. I thought I'm not a wimp and it isn't like he's beating the shit out of me every day. I thought that's what domestic abuse looked like. Then I married him. Well, let me tell you, if they're grabbing, pushing, or hitting you, they will eventually hurt you worse. Happened to my friend's husband. Suggests an open marriage. Girl for some reason agrees. Fast forward 3 months into being married. He gets jealous because they find a hot guy and the girl likes the guy better than her husband. They lasted 6 months. Reminds me of an old AITA of a guy who was jealous because he'd made his girlfriend wife have an open relationship and now she was getting way more and better guys than he ever did women. Hilarious karma. Not me, but my brother. He got his first serious girlfriend during his senior year of college. He was doing a lot of different stuff with her and told me that he was really happy. I told him that I thought that was great, but that he needed to remember to take things slow. A week later he bought a ring. Everyone in my family attempted to talk him out of it. Everyone. But I knew my brother was going to do whatever he wanted. So I just said sure. They rented a house, bought furniture, moved in, got married, and after a month, they got divorced. I think it was soon enough to get an annulment, but I'm not sure. Main thing was that my brother wanted to move out of our hometown when he was finished with college. His wife was completely fine never leaving. I don't even think she was going to school. She would just sit at home all day. So, that was that. Good times.